So teachers all over the United States right now are just walking away from the position. They're leaving the classrooms unattended, leaving the chaos, the jungle that our schools have become. Let's have a look.
Oh yeah, here we go. I was tired of showing up to work every single day, knowing that some kid someday was going to be seriously hurt from another kid, and there was nothing that I could do about it. I prevented a kid from being beaten. I prevented a girl from being smashed in the head with an iPad. I was tired of getting hit. I was tired of being disrespected every single day as if I was nobody standing there. I wasn't a authority because there was nothing to stop them from doing anything. They don't suspend, they don't expel because that makes them look bad. It makes the numbers look bad. It's the system. The system is broken. It's a Title I school. They get food. You know what happens at the end of the day? If they don't eat the food, even though it's unopened, they throw it in the trash. The system is broken. I was tired of watching the good kids, the great kids who had a great family life be sucked into the negativity and the bad behavior and the overall thought that school doesn't matter, who the hell cares? I'm just here to hang out with my friends. I was tired of not being able to get in touch with any parent ever. The ones that I needed to talk to, at least. I was tired of being told every single time, just document it, just write it down, just document it, just document it, just document it, and nothing gets done. You're just documenting for no reason. I was tired of saying you have detention and being laughed at, knowing that they're not going to show up to the detention and then nothing else is going to happen and I can't reach home. So then what am I supposed to do? They don't care about their grades either. And this was not all of them, because it's not just that. It's also finding out from another teacher that one of the girls who said to me, I don't think my mom loves me. And when I told her and assured her that that was never the case and that couldn't be the case, and I talked to the teacher and she said she's seen them together and that might be the case. And during the pandemic, when the little girl would always send me emails at 1 a.m., left alone by herself, later finding out that she would get hit, having to report it to DHS, and then finding out that that girl no longer was allowed to come to my class by her mom, and that the last thing that I had heard was she got her Christmas taken away for telling me the system is broken. I left because I cared too much to watch it anymore. And I give so many teachers credit that can continue to show up with a smile on their face in that. Not the hour commute either. It was the hardest thing that I ever did to leave. And now a day goes by where I don't think about how they're doing. And how hard it was to walk away because I finally chose myself. I chose my mental health over them. Finally. To the teachers out there, salute you. Don't listen to people like this.
Let me be 100% transparent here. My kid is 6 months old and I haven't dealt with teachers in essentially 20 years. The most I've dealt with teachers has been during my pre-marriage Tinder escapades. But as far as my support for teachers as it is, it's really just a hair's width. But they do have my support because they do provide an important function. And as things are completely crumbling in our economy and in our country, they're the ones who are really kind of left holding the bag of glitter and a pile of student loan debt. Because look, why I'm saying that what's happening in the classrooms right now, and listen, anyone who's been on the internet, anyone who's been on social media can see that those rooms are just fucking anarchy. It's not the curriculum that's hurting the kids, right? It's not the curriculum that's making the teachers back out. It's just a pure barbarism that they see on a day-to-day basis. They're in there dealing with a kid who thinks that life is just one TikTok short. You know, they have to compete with a multi-billion-dollar-a-year company and the God algorithm that they've produced. It's just a battle that they cannot win. There's no way, no possibility that a teacher, right? A nice, down-to-earth teacher, knows a lot about history, cares about their job, been doing it for 20, 25 years, you know, really creeping up to the point where they can actually cash in on that pension. No way that they can compete with the algorithm. And why are the kids really like this? Let's be honest. Is it TikTok and social media? Yeah, that's part of it. But the biggest reason, obviously, the people that I hold fully responsible for the failure of kids today in the fact that they've just kind of broken down into a pack of jackals that wander the neighborhood after school trying to steal my Yorkie is the parents. And God bless them, you know? God bless these vacant, self-obsessed parents. They're just gone. And is it their fault that they're gone? Kinda, but no, not really. Because with the economy the way that it is, the cost of living going up, that means that no parents can stay home. If you're a single parent, you got 5 jobs just to make sure that your kid has some Walmart brand Crocs. It used to be that the teacher was the last line of defense when it comes to, you know, a child's protection, but now they're just the front line, right? Because there's no one else. They're Navy SEALs just inserted into hostile territory by themselves, and they're face to face with an entitled kid who the last time he heard no, he had a meltdown and threatened to call the police on his parents. That's the kind of jackals these people are dealing with. For teachers, the job description has completely changed from just being, you know, the nice educator to being a behavioral trauma interventionist, except they're just not getting paid as good as a social worker, which they get paid shit as it is. Like I said, it's either the parents are working 5 jobs, but this isn't just like a hood thing. And I think that that's what a lot of people think that it would be, right? It's the hood schools that are the problem. No, it's all schools that are the problem. A lower income parent might be having to do 2 or 3 jobs just to make sure that there's a roof over the kids' heads. But there's no excuse for the upper middle class and upper class parents who've just completely checked out of parenting. They're too busy being on some kind of shitty cleanse that they think is gonna give more thetans, or they just completely checked out and went to Turks and Caicos to pursue a career as an Instagram influencer. You gotta use that alimony money somehow, I guess. And the thing is, a lot of these parents, they come from some kind of traumatic childhood. We all have trauma in our childhood. I believe some more than others, you know. But then there's some people who just like, life is pretty swanky, but they want to go ahead and write a novel about the childhood trauma that they went through, while at the same time, the kind of abandonment that they're putting on their children is just giving them a kind of new, unchecked trauma that now they're going to be freaking out, aping out in the classrooms, giving their teachers hell. Of course they're walking out. Of course they're quitting. It's not their job to deal with this. Now, there's different classes of parents, and this one I like to refer to as my little genius can do no wrong parents. That teacher sends a note about little Timmy throwing a chair at a librarian. The parent calls back the teacher and says, well, you know, Timmy was feeling unheard, so he acted out. There's nothing unheard about these kids, right? Little Tammy was standing up on top of a table, screaming obscenities, having a crash out because his juice box wasn't cold enough. He doesn't need to be heard. What he needs is a medication adjustment, just like the rest of these jackals. So there's no discipline. And the admin caves because they're afraid of a lawsuit, which means that the kid goes back to the classroom and the teacher has to deal with the unsufferable entitlement, and lack of consequences is now a student right. Then you have the I'm the real victim here parent. And they don't just abandon their kid, they actually weaponize the bureaucracy of the education system, right? The teacher is no longer just a partner, they become a customer service rep that they can complain to. They demand individualized lesson plans for their kid because he's a visual learner, which just translates to he can't stop watching YouTube while he's in class. Like and subscribe. They insist that the teacher isn't providing enough differentiation. All the while the teacher is simultaneously dealing with 28 little individual chaos factories. You're watching a teacher who's barely paid pennies spend their unpaid planning period have to pen a 700-word email to a parent explaining to them why they can't teach algebra through interpretative dance because the parent saw on a blog post somewhere that it would be good for the kinetic wellness of the child. You'd quit too. You'd quit too. Listen, nearly 2/3 of all school districts in this country are finding a hard time finding qualified teachers who are actually willing, not able to, but willing to deal with the kind of beasts that are in the schools right now. That's 3/4, right? That should be some major alarm bells. But at the same time, we're defunding the Department of Education, meaning that most of these teachers who are paid pennies on their slave wages aren't getting any of the materials that a lot of these kids who come from impoverished families or parents who honestly don't give a shit enough to actually go buy them the materials they need. They have to pay out of pocket for those materials for the kids so they can actually teach them lessons that they're not going to listen to because they're too busy trying to make prank videos on TikTok for likes. But that's the real kind of a greasy, horrid story to this entire thing, is just the fact that these people, these educators, are getting paid slave wages, which honestly is one of the most American things that you can do, is underpay someone who has a heroic job. The average teacher has a master's degree. That's 6 years of education. So they walk into that job making the exact same wage as somebody who works at Starbucks at a strip mall. So think about it. The average public school teacher nationally is paid before taxes about $70,000. So after taxes, probably about $45,000. And you're like, well, that actually sounds pretty good. I can deal with that. But that's essentially $45,000 of take-home pay, 10, 15, 20% of that going to student loans. So $25,000, $28,000 you actually have. Listen, I don't do math, okay? Don't check me on it. I don't care. But they're getting paid that. They're getting paid that kind of slave wage to deal with a classroom full of unruly children, right? No wonder they're walking away, right? And that's the only reasonable thing to do. The average teacher with a master's degree in education has about $57,000 worth of student debt. So you get paid a modest salary for a grueling job that you step into with about $60,000 worth of debt, all for the privilege of having a piece of paper to hang on the wall that says that you're qualified to manage chaos. So a lot of people would ask, like, what's the big draw? Why would you want to become a teacher if this is how hard it's going to be? And the fact is, it's the long game. Being a teacher, like many people who become government workers, they don't get those jobs because they're high paying. They get them because they're safe, secure, and in the long run, it leads to a nice juicy pension. Don't worry about the low wages that we're going to pay you for the next 20, 25, 30 years. Just focus on the pension. But the pension's a lie, right? It's a grift. It's a scam, right? It's something that was devised by the boomers, but it's critically underfunded in pretty much every state. And anyone who actually works in the state governments, they look at the teacher's pension and they're like, well, since no one's looking, we're just going to dip into this for whatever, any kind of projects we have going forward. So when it finally becomes time for a teacher to retire, all they're handed essentially is a pamphlet on how to reverse mortgage your house and a coupon for free funnel cake at a state fair. So, in the end, right, it might have been a good job in the past when children still had some kind of decent modicum of morality, and our society wasn't just tilting and descending into the chaos and barbarism of a post-apocalyptic dystopia. But now, when you look at it, for the meager wages that you make, walking into a job saddled with a ton of debt, unless you broke your body in the military and they actually paid for your college, you're supposed to sit through that for 25, 30 years, hope that you hit 65 and you can get a pension that is essentially just enough to pay for your insurance and taxes on a house that you probably still have a mortgage on because you couldn't afford the mortgage and you had to refinance into a 40-year. So in the end, the teachers just kind of get fucked. So the teachers are finally realizing, I'm broke, I'm disrespected, I'm undercut by the parents and ignored by the administration. And the one thing that I was looking forward to at the end of the line is just a crumbling pile of debt that I'm obligated to pay. Like, they're not quitters, right? Like, I'm not gonna hate on anyone who leaves the teaching profession, especially right now with where our culture is. But they're definitely not quitters. They're capitalists. They're looking at the spreadsheet, they're looking at the numbers, and they're saying that this just isn't good. There's no future to this. This doesn't lead to an American dream, it just leads to another American plantation. That investment is negative. So honestly, for a lot of teachers, for the first good decision that they've made in 40 years is to actually walk away from the profession and get something that actually has security or stability, if you can actually find those jobs right now. They're putting their whole profession down and just running for their lives. And good for them. Good for them. If this is how it's going to be, then let the whole rotten structure just burn down. Maybe when every school in America is just an empty husk and you realize that you can't actually run a school off nice slogans and low-fat yogurt and expect that your low-wage workers that are teachers are just going to be living in their car in the parking lot, America will finally make the decision that, hey, maybe a change should be made here. Maybe something has to be done. Maybe there has to be some accountability on the parents. Maybe teachers should be able to use corporal punishment again. I don't know. I don't really look forward to TikToks of teachers squaring up with students. But until then, they'll learn everything that they need to do from some screaming autistic streamer working from their basement or office. Like and subscribe. And for that, you don't need a pension, right? For that, you just need a super chat. If you're still here at this point, like and subscribe. It's a frustrating situation. Listen, teachers have a respectable job that aren't given any credit or due pay as they should, honestly, especially the fact that it's just become a big daycare because there's no stay-at-home parents anymore because no one can afford to be a stay-at-home parent unless you guys are really kind of killing it in the employment world, which very few people are right now. So it's really just, it's a losing situation for these people. And I'm not surprised that they're walking away from it because, like I said, the juice just isn't worth the squeeze. Ladies and gentlemen, if you're still here, like and subscribe, won't you? think about becoming a member. Make a donation, a glorious donation. A big shout out to the greatest hood Chinese restaurant in the greater Ohio area. New Ming, fantastic, wonderful Mongolian beef. Find you a good hood Chinese food place, right? If you go to like P.F. Chang's, or you go to Panda Express, you're making a mistake. Don't do that. Go to the hood, right? Have some flavor in your life. Take a risk. It's no big deal. Nice people. As long as there's like a little kid doing homework right next to the cash register and everyone looks like they're related working in the back, it's going to be a great experience. But it's besides the point. Everyone, thank you for stopping by. We love you. We care. We want you to do well. Leave a comment in the comment section. Other than that, it's Friday. Ladies and gents, it's Friday. Get out there, enjoy the weekend before the winter hits. Hope you have a good one.